What's up guys, as you can see we are back in business. It's time for some PU action. Today we are facing Sultan of Suave. Some of you may remember him from our Mix NU and UU battle, which turned out to be pretty interesting, and this time, well, just look at our teams. Do I need to say more? Let's get into it then. Looking at his team, Lopani seems to be the best thing to lead off, and since my team relies on entry hazards quite a bit, I lead off with Corsola to set up a stealth rock right away. His Lopani turns out to be quite interesting clutch utilizing variant. He goes for a switcheroo on the first turn and gives me his Flame Orb. I don't really mind that though, because my only attack is a power gem, and thanks to Regenerator, I can recover the residual damage upon switching out. Then he incurs me on Stealth Rock, so I decide to switch to Shelmet, which is responsible for only two tasks, first of which is setting up as many layers of spikes as possible. He thunderwaves me on the switch, but Shelmet, being a snail, couldn't care less about that. However, the same cannot be said about losing Eviolite, especially that I get fully paralyzed on the same turn. Now though he switches to Hypno, as it turns out just to pass a wish to Kriketon and negate all entry hazards damage. That allows me to set up 3 layers of spikes, so Shelmet is almost done with his work, with only one thing left to do: flash himself as well as the opponent out of the field. Before that, I try to Toxic Stall him a little, but he prevents that with a Taunt. So Shelmet finishes his job with a final Gambit, but thanks to a little damage he does with a knockoff, his Kriketon manages to survive it with just about the same amount. Knowing that with all my entry hazards he will most likely just leave this thing as a death fodder, I go to Plasl and finish him off with a Volt Switch. I bring my Golbat now, thinking that it can take on pretty much his entire team. He confirms that by bringing Simisage of all the things, but HP Ice or Rock still doesn't do much and he goes down to a Brave Bird. Back comes Hypno, so I choose to Krokorak to take a Psychic. He goes for a Hypnosis though, and because I don't want my Choice Scarf attacker to be asleep, I decide to stay in and try to burn a sleep turns right away. Now he reveals that he's carrying Future Sight rather than Psychic, and I'm pretty sure that it's the first time I have seen it used competitively ever. Then he passes another wish to Basculin, which unfortunately survives the crunch even after all entry hazards damage and regains most of his health. So because at this point nothing on my team is able to take 2 adaptability boosted hits, I'm forced to death fodder my Corsola. Then I bring in Exploud, because with max HP investment I can take one hit and revenge kill him with Hyper Voice, but he decides to go back to Lopani, probably afraid that I'm Choice Scarfed. I take him out with a critical hit, but I'm pretty sure that he was just foddering this thing, and even if that wasn't the case, I could take any hit and take him out with another one, so I doubt that crit made any difference. Anyway, he goes back to Hypno and puts me to sleep once again with a Hypnosis. Because I don't really need Exploud, I decide to keep it as a sleep fodder, so I switch back to Krokorak as he goes for another Future Sight. Surprisingly, he decides to stay in, maybe thinking that I will overpredict or that he can take a crunch, but neither of that is the case. He goes down and gives me a Moxie boost. Then he goes to Golbat, which he probably should have done in the first place, because even at +1 he takes another crunch very well. Not only I get a defense drop though, but also his Toxic misses, and because of that, I decide to stay in and keep going for a crunch. So because Roost recovers only a little bit of his health, and he doesn't want to wait for a crit or another defense drop, he decides to whirlwind me out of there. Unfortunately for him, of all the things he drags out my Plasl, and with only this thing and Basculin left on his team, he is forced to stay in and goes down to a Thunderbolt. Now although his Basculin outspeeds and revenge kills me with a Waterfall, I still have my Golbat around at the range, where it can take another Waterfall like a beast, finish him off with a Brave Bird and even leave a recall with 1 HP to prove its greatness. And that is the game. Good game, Sultan of Suave. Lack of Rapid Spinner definitely didn't help your team, but then again, it's not like you see spike users often in PU, not to mention Shelmet, and that's the entire beauty of it, the fact that almost anything can work, as long as you know how to use it. Anyway, if you enjoyed, like or comment, you know the deal. See you all next time.